Hi YouTube, Darth here. In the last 2 weeks of my weekly CTE Sunday videos, I've mentioned Classic Mode, but I haven't gone too in-depth with the new game mode. Well, today I'm going to talk all about Classic Mode and what makes it different from your normal and hardcore games. Classic Mode is a throwback to the rule styles of earlier Battlefield titles, particularly Battlefield 2. The game mode is about halfway between normal mode and hardcore. There's no 3D spotting, which means you can't see enemy Doritos in your line of sight anymore. But you can still spot enemies and see them on the minimap. And unlike hardcore, you still have a minimap. Speaking of minimap, all of the other HUD elements are still visible. Your health and ammo counters are still visible, whereas in hardcore they would not be. Another thing you'll notice pretty quickly is that in Classic Mode, health does not regenerate. This means that both soldier health and vehicle health have to be replenished manually. That changes the game so that there's a much bigger incentive to having health kits and engineer repairs. When you get into a vehicle, you might notice that the third-person vehicle cameras are disabled, so there's no looking at the outside of your tank or aircraft while you're inside of it. Among other distinctions, this will undoubtedly make dogfights a bit more difficult to get a bearing on enemy aircraft. Finally, there's no kill cam. You'll know who killed you and how, but unless you can see them on the death screen, you won't know where they killed you from. This should help players that wish to remain undetected to stay that way. One thing that is unchanged from normal is that health values are at 100% of their normal value. This is different from hardcore, where health values for soldiers and vehicles are only 60%. This means that you'll still have time to react to shots before you're instantly dead. Additionally, friendly fire remains off by default, so you don't have to worry about accidentally backing over your teammates and vehicles or being killed by somebody who wants you to drop ammo. My personal impression of Classic Mode is pretty positive. I really like playing on Classic Mode. I think that not having health regenerate really changes a lot in the game for the better. It puts a lot of emphasis on cooperative play to stay alive. If you're not Assault, you have to find a health kit, and that usually means running with an Assault in your squad or scavenging a kit. If you're in a vehicle, you've got to find an engineer with a repair kit if you're not running as one yourself. Not having health regenerate also changes the pace of the game in some interesting ways. All of that incidental damage that players and vehicles take really starts to add up. A player or vehicle that just left one battle at 80 health, on normal they'd usually heal up before the next, now they're probably going to lose that next battle if they go in straight up. So on Classic, you've got to heal up or at least be more defensive about your play. You will be surprised from time to time how easy it is to put down enemies that don't take this precaution. And I realize that hardcore has no regeneration, but unlike hardcore, Classic Mode actually lets me care about this difference. Part of it is that I can see the value on my HUD in Classic, and the other part is that I can still be aggressive enough with what I've got, whereas in hardcore it feels like every encounter is a coin flip of who shot first regardless of health values. Across the board, the game just feels more balanced for normal mode health values, and Classic Mode uses that strength. As for the spotting changes, I feel that's a switch which is a bit harder to judge. Spotting has always been a bit, well, spotty in Battlefield 4. Unlike Battlefield 3, where I could spot half the enemy team by pointing in a direction, spotting in Battlefield 4 requires you to be very much locked on your target already. Even on normal, most of that time you could have already been shooting at the target you've been looking at. So getting rid of 3D spotting, at least for me, doesn't really have an appreciable impact on the game for picking targets. However, there were a number of times where enemies would get intermixed with friendlies at close range, and I and others would have a hard time distinguishing the two teams apart. That is one situation where Doritos probably would have helped both teams. The other changes have their bit parts to play. For the most part, it's the same as a game played on normal mode with some small variations. When it migrates to the live game, will I seek it out and play it? Maybe, but I probably will not specifically be looking for it. I definitely won't actively avoid it like I do with hardcore servers. But if you have the chance on the CTE, check out Classic Mode. If you don't have the CTE, it sounds like the patch might come along in mid-September, so think about giving Classic Mode a chance then. That's it for this video about Classic Mode, and if you like this video, please give it a like. If you're new around here, check out my channel and consider subscribing. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.